But we will entertain a few questions. We'll be out in the field also to entertain questions. But yeah, yes.
In the paper this last week, there was an article dealing with a fungus that was used on
Mm-hmm.
roofs by Monsanto to get more water, I believe it was.
Or drought hardiness.
Drought,
Uh-huh.
that's the word I'm trying to
Yeah.
get. Can you comment at all on that?
Well, I think your husband sent me that article, and I appreciated it. You know, my response is this is a fungus that might be put on a seed coat, not a transgenic fungus, which they pointed out in the article. They pointed out that the Land Institute had no comment on it. I didn't know who took that phone call. What's that? But the it is an example of ecological function, one of thousands that exist in the soil of the prairie, and would explain why maybe even a silphium is drought tolerant. We look at its roots, but there may be all sorts of fungal interactions that are that you need to capture by having the whole ecosystem intact. And it's a bit of a piecemeal approach, but if it moves conventional agriculture towards being more sustainable in the near term, I'm all for it personally. Are you guys for it? Okay, yeah, okay. Yes?
Most of us, I'm sure, are a little familiar with what GMOs, how they're manipulated to advantage, commercial advantage, and against a lot of other things. But could you talk a bit about whether there are any ways in which that technological process could be used to mimic or enhance more ecologically sustainable and acceptable ends?
So the question is, can we talk about how genetic engineering, or transgenics, I'm guessing in particular, might be used to advance a more sustainable agriculture, if that makes sense at all? To mimic?
I mean, is there any way in which it could take aspects of the work you're doing to select and duplicate the market?
Well, you know, we talk about this a fair amount, and right now the traits like perennialism are controlled by more than one gene, several genes. We were talking about the vernalization gene with Schuin's work, and there's not been a transgenic release that involves more than one single gene, BT or Roundup Ready, and those transgenics took place across kingdoms of organisms, from bacteria into plants. We have pondered if there was a gene in sorghum relative, the same genus, maybe even between two plants, that could cross naturally. But like Stan said, we might only want that rhizome. And we don't want to make the cross and then spend the next 15 years getting rid of all of the stuff that came with it, like dropping your seed at the end of the season, shattering. I'm just going to pose it to you all. Would making a gene transfer within a genus be legitimate or acceptable transgenically? If it's a cross that could be made naturally, I don't know. That's something to think about. But that is an example, I would say, of using that technology to move individual genes around, which is what we're doing by crossing with pollen, only we're moving lots and thousands of genes around. But then this gets into cleverness. I don't know. We are kept up at night by these questions. But one of my favorite West quotes is that critical thinking ends where fundamentalism begins. And this is, we take that seriously. So it's a good question. Okay, well, last question before we head out to the field. Yeah.
I was curious about hearing seeds being sent overseas to other places. That reminds me of a larger question about what Kansas might have been done or is being done of global
So have we surveyed other parts of the world that might benefit? Well, we have very lofty ambitions at the Land Institute. I mean, even bigger than what we've talked about up here. And one of those is to develop a National Science Foundation of Natural Systems Agriculture, in which a panel of some folks here and some of our colleagues around the world would fund clusters of researchers in many different parts of the world to both domesticate new species as well as to create hybrids for perennial agriculture. And we have ideas, and believe me, there's plenty of interest out there internationally, and it's simply a matter of moving this project forward. But that's about the best I can do right now, other than we have paid attention to that, and yes, there are many locations where it would make a lot of sense. So with that, I think, it's been a long day.